Oh, first of all, I want to thank James. I mean, after his speech, I think I can step off. He could do a much better job than me talking about what Ian can do and our vision is. Thank you, James. I mean, that's wonderful opening. I want to especially thank Stella. I mean, Stella came all the way over to Taiwan. Let's give a hand to Stella. So Stella's from BMW. If you want, the idea of a color-changing car didn't come from me. It actually came from Stella. We're just, we're super fortunate to have someone like Stella. Use our product, use our technology, and to make something that's impossible possible. All right, let's start off. So, I think some of you may know this, some of you may not know this. So, if you look at the display industry, it was all about gadgets, okay? What I mean by gadgets, all about TVs, smartphones, tablets, computer screens, okay? And that would take up 80 to 90% of all display that's been used by the LCD TFT manufacturers, and also automotives, right? Those are gadgets, okay? And the trend was moving to brighter, faster, and more vivid, right? That was what LCDs was about. You have higher resolution, better color, brighter displays, and that was what the display industry was all about. So if you go to SID or any of the display industry, that's what it all talks about. Now, with AI, I think James just talked a bit about it. Oh, perfect, there's a screen there. So if you talk about AI, you have this massive, powerful computer that's an artificial intelligence that can replace a lot of things. And it's so powerful that it consumes so much power. I think people have been talking about it. Power, power, power. AI is so good, so amazing, but it consumes so much power. To give you an idea how much power it consumes, so if you were to look from today and 3 years down the road, the amount of data center that's going to be built, just the new ones, I'm not talking about existing ones, just the new ones that's going to be built equals the total energy consumption in Germany in 3 years. Now that's a lot of power. And you extend that another 2 years, that equals to the whole Japan power consumption. And Japan is the world's number 3 country in the world that uses the power. I mean, that's a lot of power that's going to be sucked up. So what does that mean? So that means a lot of displays that's using a lot of power is going to be not necessary. You want a solution that could save power, right? The city's going to need power. Factory's going to need power. AI's going to need power. So something has to give. We think that a lot of these outdoor signage, a lot of these advertisement, they're not necessary. Why do you need power for those stuff? Why are those things consume all these power? And we think that's where the opportunity for e-ink is. Because e-ink consumes 1 versus 120, in terms of amount of power. So one e-ink display, so one battery, e-ink needs 1 battery, and an LCD needs 120 batteries. So that gives you how much power the comparison between LCDs and e-papers. And we think that we're the most energy efficient technology that's out there in the world. And I think this is going to be super important as we move to the AI world. And when you look at traditional display, it's all about energy consumption. And with AI being the bottleneck, an energy bottleneck, you need a new solution. So what e-ink is all about, we're not competing with LCDs. We're not trying to replace TVs or tablets or monitors or any of the display LCD displays you see out there. That's not what E-Ink's all about. We're not trying to compete with it. We're trying to do something that's different. We're a technology that's all about replacing paper to make the world more sustainable. And we're also in the market of changing surfaces, enabling surfaces. What does that mean when we talk about enabling surfaces? Meaning, if you look at what E-Ink has been doing, like the first product we did, we're out there replacing paper books, right, with e-readers. That was all about replacing paper. Then we went into shelf labels. Some people think that we're really replacing paper. No, but we're really changing the shelf edge. We're trying to make the shelf edge smarter, more intelligent, that it could be updated with prices, with what's happening around the world. Like if it's raining and you want to do a discount in Walmart stores, you could do that on the fly and change that prices. You could know how much inventory there is on the shelf with these shelf labels. So what we're really doing is we're trying to make the shelf edges smart. And that's what we've been doing. You know, it's about changing surfaces. And today, if you look at what we've been doing with BMW, it's all about surface as well. We're changing the surface of that car to make it emotional. It's not just information, but making it emotional, because we're emotional animals, right? We have emotions, we have feelings, and we're making these surfaces that could change color, and that could bring out emotions to it. Now, back in the days when we were doing black and white, it was about information, right? Provide the information that's needed. But once we start getting to color, it's about tapping into the inner emotion of people. How do you make things that's going to touch people? You know, I think that's going to be very different. And our display is the lowest power efficient, like I talked about. It doesn't emit light. It doesn't need power to sustain an image. There's nothing like that in the world. There's nothing. If you look at all the display technology, from OLED to LCDs to micro LEDs, there's nothing like this. Doesn't emit light, doesn't consume power. It only needs power when content's been updated. There's really nothing like that. So, this is what we imagine in the world. You know, the future for display is not about devices, it's about surfaces. Think about the surface on your desk, on the wall, outside the car, your computer exterior. These are surfaces, and we want to make them smart, and we want to make them emotional, and we want to bring life to it. And think about buildings, right? The external of a building. So BMW came up with this concept of color-changing car where when it gets really cold, it can turn white. Or, no, sorry, black, because it absorbs heat. I have it backwards. And then turns white when it gets really hot because it reflects light. What if you could do that into a building? Like a property owner, if you have a building that could change color based on the temperature or weather, and when the weather is the same, it becomes an advertisement building, and start making money for that building owner. That would be pretty cool. And we want to enable these things. It's about changing the surfaces. That's what E-Ink's all about. So, yeah, we did it with shelves. We're looking to transportation. So if you look you see a lot of bus stop that's out there with our black and white solar power displays around the world. Those are from E-Ink. But back then we only had black and white. But today, once we have color, we can start bringing in advertisement. If you think about advertisement, the biggest company in the world is an advertisement company. Look at Google. Look at Meta, Facebook. And look at Amazon, AWS. Besides AWS, the second most profitable business in Amazon is not the retail, it's the advertisement business. And online only takes up roughly 10 to 15% of the advertisement business. The rest is still offline. It's in the real world. It's divided from TVs, radios, outdoor billboards. And with the AI that's coming, internet ads is going to shrink because agents going to do a lot of these work. You don't no longer surf the web. And that's going to move to offline. And these paper signs that's out there is going to be digital. And we think that we're the best solution for it. You could have signage everywhere. You could have it on the side of a truck, taxis, buildings, restaurants, everywhere. And these could be digital. It doesn't consume power. It could be the whole thing could be powered by solar. And you could update it wirelessly. So you get these ads based on time, location. And whoever can capture that market is going to be another great company, right? Just think about Google, right? Google is an ad company, right? It uses search technology to capture the ad business. Now with the e-ink technology, you could enable things that was impossible because you couldn't place a display anywhere. But with e-ink, with the solar power, you could do that. Just think about the bus stops. There's solar power, e-ink display with wireless communication. Why can't you do that with an ad and stick them everywhere? And that's what we're trying to enable. We're changing that surface. So I think every once in a while when a new technology comes, something disrupts, right? AI disrupts the tech world. And we hope that with e-ink technology, we're going to disrupt the surface world. Not the display world, but the surfaces that's around here. And that's what we're planning to do. So, if you look back, look at our ESL. And when we talk about we're getting into signage business, we first talk about retail signage. Why? Because retailers are already using e-ink displays. Now, if you put in an ad on the store, outside the store, it tells you what the regular price was $19 and becomes $18 because of certain promotion. And you could link that from outside signage to shelf talker on the side of the price tags. And we want to enable that with our module partners, with our ecosystem partners, to make this possible. E-ink doesn't want to do it alone. We want to do it partners. And we're executing that right now. So if you go to our booth, we brought in 40 partners with us and trying to enable this whole ecosystem and to do this together. So all our partners can make money off of it. Not just us, but our ecosystem partners. Now that's the next thing we want to go after. It's billboard on the street. So if you go to our booth again, you're going to see we have tiled e-paper solutions. How do you tile something that could be as large as you want? And that's something we're working on. So again, we think, you could do this alone, and if you go alone, you can do it fast. But we want to do this with partners and do it together. And that's what e-ink is all about. It's about partnerships. It's about partnerships with our ecosystem partners. And with this new technology, there's going to be new opportunities. With new opportunity, there's new business available. And we want to do it with the partners and to go after these business together. And that's what e-ink is all about. So if you come to our booth, you see all these partners, and you see e-ink technology there, and you wonder, what is that relationship? Yes, we partner with our partners. We sell our proprietary tech to display companies, and we do it together. We introduce them to customers. Customers love it because they have choices. They don't have to only buy from e-ink. They can buy from us, or they could buy from partners. That's what we're all about. So this is what we imagine, a calm digital world in the future, right? So I'm sure all of you have been to Las Vegas for CES or Times Square in New York, right? It's very bright. It's exciting with all these lights. It was exciting if you stay there for 2 or 3 hours, but if you have to stay there for a month with all these lights around you, I don't think it's a very comfortable place to be at. And that's what we want to do. We want to have you want to have a digital world with no lights, and you have all the benefit of a digital display. And that's what we want to do. So thank you for being here. This is my opening. I think James did a better job than I did talking about what we want to do. And thank you for being here. Some of you may know us from display and display shows, but this is our first time in COMPUTEX, and we want to show our technology to the rest of the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnson, for the very inspiring opening.